This episode is brought to you by ministrywebsites.biz. Check them out for all your online communication needs for your ministry. They make the most advanced technology very user-friendly as they seek to make your ministry communicate effectively, simply, and easily on the web. Check them out at ministrywebsites.biz. Hey guys, welcome to another Life and Student Ministry video post. My name's Tim Schmoyer. I'm hanging out with a bunch of youth workers here at the Missionary Alliance retreat. What district are you guys, by the way? Is there a name for this district?
Northwestern District.
Northwestern District. All right, I've had a great weekend with these guys so far. We're going to talk with you guys a little bit about communication tips for speaking to teenagers, and these guys are going to share with you some of their wisdom. Why don't you guys first introduce yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Okay. I'm Rick Wallace, student ministry pastor at Rose Hill Alliance Church in Roseville, Minnesota.
And I'm Matt Archer. I'm the family ministries pastor at Riverside Church in Monticello, Minnesota.
I'm Matt Reeve, the student pastor of Parkside Church in Waconia, Minnesota.
And I'm Alan Grunn. I am the associate pastor at Malacca Alliance Church in Malacca.
So what are some tips and advice that you guys got for communicating with teenagers, probably mostly from a stage perspective, not so much small group discussion, but, when you're just kind of speaking directly to teens? Who wants to go first?
Matt.
All right, go for it, man.
I guess one of the biggest things is to be real, to be yourself. Just right here.
Hold the microphone correctly.
Like this, yes. You don't want to hold it down here. But to be real, to be yourself, to have fun with the students, to be able to allow them to be able to see your fun side, but also your serious side, to be able to bring experiences into your message that you experience and not someone else has experienced, and don't try to make someone else's story your story.
I think also one benefit would be to even share your struggles that you've had on even what you're speaking about, if it's something out of the Bible, but to give your growing experience with what you're speaking about or what you've been studying.
I try to use a lot of voices and interpretive dance. Mostly, I think the thing that I always stress with the people that work with me is just to teach out of your own transformation. What is God showing you in what you're teaching, or what has He shown you in the past? And that's a big thing for us, is to teach out of our transformation.
Yeah, and I think it's good also just to be yourself, like Matt was saying. I think you go to conferences and you hear someone like Francis Chan, or you hear someone, you want to be like them, and it's good that you be yourself and that you just have your personality, be prepared with what you've studied. And I always think that stories are always powerful. And just like in church on Sunday morning, when the pastor gives an illustration, people listen. People are still in the stories, and it's good to tell stories that are real. Yeah. So,
along with that, with the stories thing, I think after when I first introduced one major point, I try to introduce it, I say the point and then give a story example, because a lot of times I can give the point, and then as soon as I start jumping into the text that supports it, sometimes it's like they start tuning out. So I like to start engaging them with the story right after I make that point, or right before I make that point, to kind of lead into it. What are some things that you guys have seen, like new youth workers, some of those mistakes that are kind of common that just come up, when you see a new youth worker speaking? He looks pretty eager. Here we go.
I think right off the bat, you want to get in touch with your audience, and sometimes when you feel like you're struggling and you make them laugh, then you feel like I've made my in and I need to continue that thought. But it's very important to keep to your purpose of what you're speaking on.
Yeah. Going along with that is don't try to make jokes up front that have nothing to do with your topic. Just throw in a couple funny jokes just to get everyone laughing, and then completely switch subjects. Kind of stay, if you're going to make something humorous, make it come with and into the message that can be relevant to them.
no mistakes. Yeah. I think one of the most annoying things when I hear people talk who are new communicators is just they're not comfortable, and so they'll say like okay, and then kids start actually keeping track of that and to be totally distracted from the talk. So just relax and practice if you need to. Practice with your wife, your kids, your pets, and just make sure that you are relaxed. Okay. That's it.
Yeah, I do actually. I try to practice with my wife. I think the practice thing you talked about is super important. I just think that memorization is also really important. We try to talk about as a team with our group to memorize what you're going to say so that you have the freedom to wander from that. If you have your stuff memorized, then you can come back and get on track real quick. If you're not really as familiar with what you're saying and you get off on a rabbit trail, you tend to stay on a rabbit trail for a while, and it takes longer to work your way back. So I think memorization is really important.
Yeah. Okay. Is also going off of that is if you're new at speaking, you don't have to have your entire sermon written out, but have bullet points that you have the ability to make a rabbit trail, but then know kind of where you're coming back to, and have that point that you can look back on and say, "Oh, ADD just kicked in, and now I got to get back on track."
Would you say that winging it's a big mistake for a lot of people that are new?
I think winging it is a huge mistake. Why would it be a huge mistake? Anybody who's winged it here? I haven't, so.
I think one other thing that's really important. Thank you, Matt. One other thing that's really important is not to be afraid of silence. If you're working through your notes and maybe you've lost your spot, don't feel you have to fill it, with those uhs and okays and things till you find your notes. Silence is not necessarily a bad thing.
And I'll give you the microphone back, but when you wing it, sometimes when you wing it and it turns out great, don't think that all of a sudden that you found your spiritual gift and that God's going to, like the first time I winged it and it went great, I was like, why do I prep? And so the next week it didn't go so good. So, that's, maybe God just cut you a break one time. So.
Yeah. Two things that one thing that really irritates me, I guess, when people are speaking is when they ask a ton of rhetorical questions, I do it. Like even last night, he's like, "So you guys tracking with me? You get what I'm saying?" Everyone's like, "No," So asking a lot of rhetorical questions, I think, is kind of annoying. The other thing I think is super important that often goes is undervalued are the transitions. That you're going from one point to the next point. Too many times I hear guys say, "Okay, and my next point is," and it's like. It's like, all right, who cares anymore? But being real, in fact, I think I spend more time on those transitions than on the kind of the bulk of the lesson, because I think it's so super important that we make sure our audience stays with us through the whole flow of whatever it is that we're teaching. And so sometimes I go mostly teach based on bullet points and big ideas, and I don't write out a story. If I need to tell a story illustration, I'll just put the title of the story, or just enough to kind of get me going. But the transitions, I'll often write out word for word, get them just right, and I try not to read them. But if I haven't memorized it and I can't remember, I will read it just to make sure that I get that transition right, so people follow along with me from one next point to the next.
That's good. The transitions are so important.
One other huge thing is watching your time. You're asked to come speak, or you're speaking at your youth group, you're not that important. What you have to say can be said within 20 minutes, half hour. If you're given 40 minutes somewhere to speak, stay within that, and don't feel that that everything that you have to say is God breathed. The scripture is, but God can use what you say.
And try to use as many acronyms as possible. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, and the alliteration where they all got to start with the same letter. Equip, encourage, exalt, whatever. Envision. Yeah.
For covering my youth philosophy.
Yeah, I just bashed their whole churches. So, if you guys have any questions, how would they best get in touch with some of you guys, real quick, in 30 seconds or less?
Email Pastor Rick W at rosehillcma.org.
Matt at myriversidechurch.com.
Matt at illuminateministries.org.
Just contact these two. Alan Grund at hotmail.com.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys, again this week for another Life and Student Ministry video post, and we'll see you guys soon for another one. I was left out, so I just had to get it. All right, here we go.